Good morning, sunshines. Okay, so you need to email me your analysis finally of Death Trap. Yes, last time we talked about the possibilities. I gave you sort of my impression of what would be in it. I need you to send me your answers, whatever they may be. You may have found some things that I didn't think to highlight. You may have found some things, forgotten to add some things, and I'll make note of them. But you need to go ahead and send me your analysis based on those 7 areas we talked about on day 1, so we can start finding the difficulties in the production process. All right. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about today is creating a character scene breakdown. There are 2 basic ways that you can approach a character scene breakdown. First of all, a character scene breakdown is going through the script and sort of creating a one-page visual. There you can have the list of the characters and the scenes that they are in. Now, let's say you have Death Trap, you have Act 1, Scene 1, Act 1, Scene 2, Act 2, Scene 1, etc. If all 5 characters in all 5 scenes, you may not have broken it down far enough. So you may need to break it down to what are called French scenes. Anytime somebody enters or exits the stage, that's called a French scene. So the first scene in the play has the husband and the wife talking, yes? And so that would last until you added a 3rd character, which may not be till the next scene, right? But then you have the crazy lady show, yes? And so she's not there for the entire scene, so you may just have a scene that is her pages. That'll be her French scene, yes? And so again, it is up to you as a stage manager if it's 10 pages, if it's 2 pages. I would say if nobody enters or exits, if you're doing, first of all, if you're doing a one-man show, Craft's Last Tape, one-man show, there's no need for character scene breakdown. He's the only character to play. He's on stage the whole play. There you go. I don't have to put that in visual reference. I can understand it, right? So really it's there to know, so you can identify where quick changes might be, where you might identify how much time you have between scenes or how long the scenes are. Eventually you're going to have costume designers who are going to use your character scene breakdown to make sure that each individual character has different costumes every time they appear on stage in a different day. Yes. You may use the character scene breakdown in order to call rehearsals. Let's say you're rehearsing the first 5 pages of the play. Well, if you've got a character scene breakdown and you're doing page 1 through 5, you look at character scene breakdown, ooh, page 1 through 5 only has these 2 people. Or it may be that page 7 is not till next entrance, so you might talk to the director and say, listen, if we can get to page 7 today, we can get up to this character's entrance, and then we can start the next rehearsal with the character's entrance. Or the director may say, well, we'll do 30 minutes at the beginning of the next rehearsal before we add the 3rd character. Yes. So that's where the character scene breakdown is used. It's a way of beginning to analyze the script. You're going to go through, and people are going to use it as far as developing the rest of the play. But a character scene breakdown can be a very useful thing to have. The 2 ways you can do it: one is to list the name of the characters, and then list across the page number of the scenes, and then put an X where they're on stage. Now, let's say you have somebody who is potentially in the scene, somebody who's listening, somebody who is top of the stairs, etc. You might put them in parentheses because the director may make the choice to have them actually on stage. So again, it's a difficult call, but if they don't speak the line, then they're not on stage. Or you can write off stage. Just write, instead of an X, just write off, OFF. If they have a spoken line that's off the stage, because there still need to be their rehearsal to give their line. Yes. For instance, the angel in Angels in America doesn't actually appear until the last scene of the play, but she says that she has many lines during the course of the play. So you need to make sure the actor knows that they need to be backstage to give their line during those scenes as well, because you can post these on the call board. We'll talk more about call board here in a minute. But that's one way. Now, if you have a play, for instance, a Shakespearean play, let's just say, where you have many actors playing multiple roles, you're doing Hamlet. Obviously, the role of Hamlet is usually played by one person. So anytime you have Hamlet on stage during Hamlet, you just put an X. But let's say you have somebody who in the first scene plays a guard, and later on plays a soldier, and later on plays Fortinbras. Well, it may be that you have that character listed, the name of the actor, Cody Robinson, is listed, and then you have, and instead of writing an X, you write guard, and then you write soldier, and and then you write Fortinbras instead of writing the X. And that way, again, the costume designer can easily see that they need a different costume for each look, so that because they're a different person. But you can also see how long in between, if you've got 10 pages or 20 pages or 5 acts in between, yes, you can plan ahead as far as how much of a costume change you can have. But you can also very quickly look and see how the actors are used during the course of the play. Now, a lot of times, again, if you've got a big banquet scene, if you're doing a Scottish play, you got a big banquet scene, sometimes the director will just want more people on stage. Doesn't matter who it is, but you just need more people because it's supposed to be a banquet. And you've only got 4 named characters who speak. Well, everybody else is available to be a banquet person, unless they were in the first scene right before that, and they were the guards outside. Well, the guards wouldn't necessarily be at the banquet, unless they come up with some great costume for it, yes? But that's why character scene breakdowns can be very useful, because you can look at them and see who's in what scenes and that sort of thing. If you're, especially in musicals, oftentimes you will have music numbers, and it's very easy to see who's in the dancing group and who's in the singing group, and so you can send them to different rehearsals. Obviously, during the course of the song, when it comes together, everybody sings and everybody moves. But there are times when you need to have the dancing chorus learning the dance, and you need to have the singing chorus learning the songs. And so knowing those sort of things is a great way to use the character scene breakdown to send the right people to the right place. Yes. So again, it's just a tool for you, but for the next project, next assignment is to go through Death Trap and assign, again, you're just going to have the 5 characters, you don't have to worry about the actors because there's not enough breakdown to have each character plays one role. And then go through and list the page numbers. Now, if you can actually say Act 1 and put the breaks in there too, that's probably a good thing. But I would say having just Act 1 and Act 2, Scene 1, Scene 2, etc., there's probably not enough of a breakdown. You're going to probably need to break it down further than that. And so having this French scene thing where you have the page numbers of the entrances and the exits would be a great way of approaching the character scene breakdown. Cool. And then this part would go in the front section of your prompt script, and it would be used to help create the rehearsal schedule, so that when certain pages are called for rehearsal, you know which character to call to come to that night's rehearsal. Yes? All right, so that's the character scene breakdown. Now let's talk about the plots. First of all, costume plot is going to eventually be the complete list of every costume piece, of every per character on stage, what they wear on stage, every entrance and every exit. Especially if you're going to have quick changes, you might also list the quick changes separately, as far as how many people you need for the change, the crew members that you need, because you may have somebody, for instance, you may have somebody on shoes, because you may have the actor walk off stage, sit in a chair, have somebody take their shoes off, then take off their pants, take their shirt off while they're sitting there, then stand up, put a new pair of pants on, put some new shoes on. It's always nice to have somebody down there who just does shoes. And then it also is very nice to often have somebody who just does jackets or coats or wigs. So it may be that you have 3 or 4 crew members who are assisting in a costume change. And again, having that character scene breakdown to tell you where the quick changes are. If you've got a character who's in, Act 1, Scene 1, page 9, and doesn't appear again until Act 3, page 74, that person has all day to go get changed. If you got somebody that's going in page 9 at the end of the scene, if you're doing, for instance, we did the Seagull, and Masha is in the very last person to have a line in Seagull, Act 1, Scene 1. Act 1, Scene 2, she's the first person to have a line, and it's supposed to be 3 days later. Now, fortunately for us, Masha is depressed and wore black the whole time, so all we did was add a shawl. But we had to have an actor had to know to take Masha a shawl, put around her, and then they took their umbrella that she had off stage, right? So that was her costume change during that thing. And again, you knew that because somebody had done the character scene breakdown and say, hey, this shift here has got to be quick. Whatever it is minimal, right? Because we don't have time to do any kind of major things, because she's the last thing on one scene and the first thing in the next scene. And we don't have time for a complete costume change, yes? Again, there's lots of ways to make things quicker with Velcro and magnets and all kind of crazy stuff. But your costume plot eventually is going to have a complete list of all the costume pieces. Again, things like glasses, things like canes, personal props may go on that as well, just so somebody who's collecting things, especially on a tour, knows what to look for. Here's an example of a little costume plot talking about what each character is. The type of things they wear and what scene they wear it in, etc. You may have, it may be easy to do that, or maybe you've got to create your own costume plot, but there's at least one that you can use as an example of having the character and the scene and what their actual costumes are. Another type of plot is your light plot, which is again your list, just a list. Your light cues, what page numbers they're on, how long the cue is. If it's a 4-second cue, if it's a 20-second cue. Again, in today's modern world where you have computer boards where the cues are just programmed in the board, those things are already there. But let's say a lightning bolt strikes in the middle of your production and wipes out your computer memory. You can then use your light plot to know what it's supposed to do. You're supposed to have it goes from full stage to a blackout to down right, or the cues that are coming up, and the fades are 4 seconds and 4 seconds. And so you can then manually run the board based upon the information that's in your light plot to tell the light board operator how to manually run that board. But again, it's just there to cover, again, you're imagining the worst case possibility. 99% of the time, lightning is not going to strike in your computer board, just a go button. Yes? Now, let's say you have something that's happened. I've had light board operators who had heavy fingers, and when they hit the go button, they would hold it down. A modern light board will scroll through cues if you hold the go button down. And so whereas you were only supposed to go from light cue 2 to light cue 3, when they scroll through, you look up and it says light cue 6, and you're supposed to be in light cue 3. Well, it's quick to go back, find your tab, it says light plot, light cue 3 is supposed to be this. Oh, can you just give me this area in your CYA lights? And then the most important thing is get light on the actor. The audience, I promise you, I've been through weird stuff. I had a woman, we were doing a production of 3 Tall Women, which is about a woman who has a stroke. And in the second act of the play, a woman on stage had a stroke. And we called the paramedics, and they came and they took her to the hospital. And then the next week, I saw a person who saw the show and said, how do you get the police to show up every night? They had no idea that that was not the plan for the show. So the audience, unless you stop the show and say, this is a mistake, we have got to go back, the audience is going to believe everything that they see on stage is supposed to be what's happening. And so the fact that there may be some weird light stuff that happens, as long as they can see the actors talking, they will think that things are all right. Yes? So get the actors in light, find out where you're supposed to be, then go to the cue, and then once the cue is established, you can bring down all the fail-safe lights. But that's an example of just plan for things when things go wrong. So having those light plots as a tab that you can quickly turn to. Again, no panic. We've scrolled through, okay? Or even if you don't know how you wound up in some crazy cue, we'll figure that out later. No fault. Don't blame anybody. What's the problem? We're supposed to be in Q3. We're not in Q3. All right, Q3 is supposed to be bring up light. They're in light. All right, now keep that up while we do this to go to the right cue. Once you're in that cue, you can bring down the extra stuff. Cool? But again, that's what the light plot is there for, to tell you in case of emergency how to get from one scene to the other and what the light cues individually do, etc. Same thing with the sound plot. Again, just a list of the individual sound cues. Oftentimes, sound cues will have the additional element of coming out of a different set of speakers. Again, in today's world, that can be programmed into the writing of the cues, but oftentimes it's nice to know, because you're going to have a separate master for each cue or each speaker system in that situation, and a lot of times you may have split levels on those. I would discourage that to anybody who is doing that, because you forget to put them back in the right place. Especially the master cues on sound levels, I would leave the master alone and deal with the individual channels. But occasionally, the only way to attack it, if you got crickets going at the same time you got music, you may have to split them. Especially if the music's coming from one side of the stage and the crickets are coming from the other side of the stage. You know, you got a town over here that's got a little siesta. I mean, a little celebration going on, fiesta going on, not siesta, everybody snoring over here. And then you got the crickets on the other side of the island, right? And maybe you have to split those speakers, yes, as far as our level is concerned. But still, I think there's a way to do it where you can do it with the individual sounds, but I could be wrong. At any rate, you've got your sound plot there, so in case things start, your computer skips out, The sounds can still happen, and at least you can know what you're supposed to do. Properties plot, these are, all right, again, this is just between us. When you have actors, love them. But there are some actors who are not as able as others. And directors oftentimes will, let's see how to put this. If you need an actor to move from stage right to stage left, let's just say, a director will say to an actor, I need you to move from stage right to stage left. And the actor, a good actor, will find a way to motivate themselves during the course of the scene to move. There are actors, though, who will say why. And inevitably, because the director is short on time and patience, they'll just do things like add a prop or a waste paper basket or something that gives a justification for the actor to move where the director needs them to. And so that is all precursor to say that props get added more than any one thing, I would say, later than any one thing in the show. Set pieces are pretty much described way ahead of time because it takes a lot of time and energy and money to get pieces of furniture, to get them planned and bought, purchased, and covered, and all that sort of stuff. Again, costumes take a while to build, to fit, all that sort of stuff. Light cues are pretty changeable, but props, it's pretty easy to look down and say, okay, let's grab that can over there and put it on stage. And suddenly you got to, go over there to get a can to shine to spray out the bugs or whatever the director comes up with, because the actor can't figure out why they need to cross. And so there needs to be a list of the props that you need to keep up with. Again, a lot of times you're going to go through the script and there are going to be the props listed, all the weapons that are listed in Death Trap. If the director doesn't actually use those props that are listed there, then they can be other things, right? If they don't call it, they talk about weapons, and you've got to have the handcuffs because they talk about the handcuffs. So anytime dialogue, you've got to have. Anything that's just in parentheses is the way they did it. And if you've just got a sword, could it be a dagger? Sure, that's threatening. And if you've got a little bit limited space, a dagger could be the better choice because you need less room than a sword. And sometimes you're going to change the wording, God forbid, to put that dagger down as opposed to put that sword down, right? And so you're going to find that a lot of back and forth happens. You need to keep the prop list updated and current, and make sure that people know where things, whether they were bought, whether they were borrowed, or whether they were built, the 3 Bs. Yes, you can buy something, you can borrow something, and you can build something. If you have bought something, guess what? You can do anything you want to with it because you bought it. If you borrowed something, can we take a foot off this pool cue because it's too big? We borrowed that pool cue. Can we call the person and say, can we take a foot off of this? Sure, yeah, call them. But you can't just arbitrarily cut a foot off a pool cue because you wanted to, if you borrowed it. Now, can you go and buy another one? Sure. Can you buy the one you have? Yes. If you've borrowed an antique chair and somebody sits in it during the course of the run of the show and breaks it, guess what? You have bought that chair. So you can do anything you want to with it. But if you built that chair, again, you can do anything you want to because you built it. But you need to make sure as a stage manager, you know what was built, what was borrowed, and because it was borrowed, you have to make sure that somebody knows to return it at the end of the run of the show. And so having some sort of way of communicating that and having a list for that would be awesome. Anyway, so these plots are all there, and again, the time that you have to create them is during prep week. So here's a little video telling you a little bit more about prep week. Yay!
Hello Internet, I'm Nick Acciani, and these are my adventures backstage. This week, I kind of wanted to start, well, not actually start, because I technically started it with 2 videos before, but I wanted to continue the stage managing series of these videos. Right now, I am stage managing a show, and I would do it in the time that I'm stage managing a show. Probably about 2 weeks behind, because I'm about 2 weeks behind time-wise, and there hasn't been a video in like 2 months. Oops. I've talked about what goes into a stage manager's bag, I've talked about what a stage manager is, and I've talked about what goes into a prompt book. This week I'm going to talk about kind of the first thing that happens when you start a stage managing job, and that is your prep week. It's pretty self-explanatory. My first equity job, the production manager was like, okay, rehearsals start on this date and your prep week starts a week before that. And I was a little confused because before this I had only worked non-equity or 99 seat, which is a modified equity agreement. So I had to ask, I'm like, is this the week that you just kind of prepare things? And they're like, yeah. So your prep week is basically your week to get your together. So what should you be thinking about getting together for your prep week? Almost the first thing that I will do on any prep week is get in touch with my actors and the design team and production team. It's usually via email. For the actors, I will send 3 emails. They usually get 3 emails from me in the beginning. The first is an email introducing myself, giving my contact information, and giving the contact list as well. That will usually be in my first email to them. Then I'll have a separate email asking for their conflicts. They should have given their conflicts already, but generally I will collect them myself because usually they add things. They don't say things on their audition sheet that they need to have said because they think they won't get cast, or they just forgot. So I will send an email asking for conflicts, and then a third email asking for allergies. Food allergies specifically, but I ask for any allergies at all because you never know if someone's going to need an EpiPen at some point. It's just nice to have that all in there. Food allergies specifically in case there's prop food during the show, in case the theater wants to feed the cast and the crew at some point during tech week. Having all of that information is handy because if someone's gluten-free, you can't just give them a pizza. And the reason I do it in 3 separate emails is actually because it's easier for me. I can just go look in that email thread of conflicts to see everybody's conflicts. I can look in that email thread of allergies and see all their allergies, and it helps me see who's responded and who hasn't. And on these 3 emails, I will ask them to respond at the bottom of the email before I sign off to know if they've gotten it or not, and if they've read it. Usually works. So you've emailed the cast, email the production team and introduce yourself. Say you're the stage manager and you're going to be receiving a lot of emails from you in terms of reports and stuff, and just kind of a general like, hey, this is my contact information. If you need to get in touch about the show, about rehearsals and all that stuff, you'll be talking to me. Let's get to know each other, especially the lighting and the sound designer and sometimes projection designer, because you will need to know who they are and talk to them when you get cues later on. After that, what's the rest of the week look like? It's a lot of paperwork. This is sitting down with the script and going through the script for props, pulling the sound cues out of the script. That sounds like you're actually reaching into the script and pulling them out. You're not. Some people highlight, some people circle, some people just write it down on the list. I kind of do a mixture of all of those. So I'll highlight props in one color, I'll highlight sound cues in another. I usually do this in a separate script than the one that I format to take blocking notes and all that, just so I can keep one that's just messy of all of those notes. So going through the script, pulling all of those things, and then putting them into templates and lists. I'll usually create a prop tracking sheet because I like to know where it starts and where it ends on the stage, and I will send this out to my ASMs because for me, when I'm stage managing, I'm taking care of the blocking. My ASMs are usually on book and taking care of the props. So I usually give that responsibility of tracking all the props to my ASMs. I do the same thing with costumes, but that list doesn't get filled out yet because that's not going to be until tech when they actually know what costumes they're wearing. With set pieces, with lights, I'll make templates for these things. They're not complete lists yet because we haven't rehearsed, so we don't know what we need. But having the templates beforehand makes tech a whole lot easier because I don't have to think about it. I can just give it to someone, give it to an ASM, and they can fill it out and give it back to me, and then I can type it up later. Maybe I'll throw all my templates up on my website and just have them there for people to use and take, because I think I do pretty well with the templates. Other templates that I do, I format my script. There's something to be said about having a rehearsal script, a blocking script, and a performance script. I've gotten to a point where I kind of like them all as one because I don't like rewriting my blocking, and I like having my blocking there in the script that I'm calling so I know when people mess up and what's going on. So I make a template for one side of my script and the other side of my script. I will be going through my entire script later with how to write blocking and cues and like how I set it up, but during this week I go through that and I format my entire script. I will get ground plans from the scenic designer, throw them in my book. It's basically just getting everything organized so you can walk in to rehearsal on the first day, open your book, and be ready to go. Report templates, deciding what sections you're going to put in your binder go into this. So like when I was doing Avenue Q, I had a whole section on puppets because they'd rip and break and our puppet coach had to fix them and that type of thing. And they had their own section. It was my favorite section because it was the puppet section. I mean, how many shows can you do puppets in? Probably a lot, but it's Avenue Q. Yeah, I'm trying to think what else. Getting all your office supplies. Making that Staples run, Office Depot, Office Mag, wherever your office supplies come from, Target even. Getting that binder. Oh gosh, what I forgot. Putting your bag together, or your box, or your stage manager kit. The theater that I'm working at has all of the supplies that I could need. So my stage manager kit is really kind of my own personal supplies. So it's not as decked out as the video I have from on my stage manager bag from a while ago. You can look at that here. That video is great on what you might need if you're visiting a theater or renting out a theater. It's like the theater doesn't have its own base or doesn't have its own supplies, what you might need for that. So check that out. Yeah, basically prep week is get prepared so you're not having panic attacks and having anxiety attacks during rehearsals because you didn't do something. You will not have done something because it's almost impossible to think of everything, but this just limits that. But yeah, so that's all for this week's video. I hope you learned.
All right, welcome back. 2 more things and we're out of here. Well, 3 maybe. First of all, the master calendar. Creating a master calendar, again, you're having to work with the director and the producer. A lot of times, especially early on, things with having to do with newspapers and things are really producer bound. Having dates for, usually people are going to have program information about themselves that needs to be turned in. Usually there's some sort of word limit, 100 words or less, or whatever it is that you need to turn in for the programs. You need to make sure that those people have, that the actors have time, and the crew members, if they're included. Yes, you need to make sure everybody got a headshot or whatever they need done. So master calendars can have all those sort of things. Things like haircuts. Things that, whatever it is that the production needs to have happen needs to go on that master calendar. And that's, again, another reason why you want to have the calendar that, in addition to the rehearsal schedule, which is a list of what happens in the rehearsal, you may want to have the calendar that is much more 7 days in a week to have things listed to where things happen so that you can have the haircut before the photo call, for instance. That might be nice, etc. All right, company rules. Company rules there are some equity rules I've given that I've shown you here. For instance, 5-minute break every hour, 10-minute every hour and a half, for example, of a break. If an equity actor has a piece of their costume that they've rented to the theater, oftentimes for instance, let's say they wear their own personal tap shoes in a show. A lot of times equity requires that the theater pay them back for their tap shoes, so $5 a week, whatever it is. You need to make sure that those checks are happening, etc. Oftentimes the producer will give checks to you to give to the equity members to make sure that you are there so that when you get the check to the actor can say, yes, this is right, or no, this is not. So you can go to the deputy. Now let's talk about the deputy. In the first day of rehearsal, in an equity situation, you are the deputy until a deputy is elected. The deputy is the equity representative to the producers from equity. It has to be an equity member in the company, and it cannot be the stage manager. But it is the stage manager until a deputy is elected. And so the first thing that happens in an equity rehearsal is everybody signs their contracts. Once everybody has signed their contracts, including you, the equity members meet separately, elect a deputy, tell you and the producer who the deputy is, nobody else needs to know. The actors who are the equity members who voted know. And then any problems that arise, the deputy handles. It's often nice if you and the deputy have a close association just to keep you in the loop. Do they have to tell you the problems? No. But it is nice to know that a certain actor is having problems with management, yes. Because that might be why they're mad every time they come to rehearsal. Because they dyed their hair and cost them $75 and the producer hasn't paid them back. Does that mean they're not going to do the show? No, but it's why they got a chip on their shoulder, right? So again, it's often nice to know those things. Here are, I'm going to say 10 of my basic rules. First of all, you must sign in. Like I said, there's little tricks you can do, put a joke up there, put some candy up there, do something to get the people accustomed to going to the call board. Now, this is not a rule, but this is your responsibility. The call board is a place, usually in the green room, but it's somewhere in the space where the actors can go to read the information about the show. You can post the production notes, you can post performance notes. For instance, a lot of times dance captains will go to a rehearsal, to go to a performance and watch the show and give notes about different members of the cast who are doing dance, who's not right, etc. And so you'll email them those notes, but you'll also post them on the call board. So the call board is your space. You design what it looks like, you design where the sign-in sheet goes, all that sort of stuff. So actors must sign in first thing when they're through the door is one of my major notes, and you cannot sign in for anybody else. Because if you get in the habit of signing in for somebody who's late all the time, you as a stage manager need to know this person is late all the time. And my solution for it is call them at the time you call the crew. Your call is no longer half hour because you can't get here on time. Your call is now an hour. If you can't get here an hour, your call is an hour and a half. Do people get mad? Yes, but guess what? They get there on time. If you can find people, find people. Are you being an a-hole? Sure. But guess what? You've got to figure out a way to get that cast member there. Because again, they may think, oh, I've got nothing to do. And if they're not there till the second act, avoid the confrontation. Just have them come at showtime. But they've got to be there by showtime or else they're called half hour. Why am I coming at half hour? Because I can't start the show without knowing you're on the premises, because you could hit a deer and we got a plan for it, right? Find games for them to play, find things for them to read, find things that will, keep them interested, keep them involved, so they're not just sitting around doing nothing. Give them a Sudoku book, whatever, have them write the joke of the day for the next day, right? Whatever it is, have them involved. If you're going to be tardy, you need to make sure everybody has your number so they can text you, if nothing else. Say, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. Or your assistant stage manager, if you're too busy doing other things. You can certainly assign somebody else to be in charge of making sure everybody's on time, right? So at half hour, if that's when your call is, you need to make sure that everybody is there, double check. And what I would do is just have everybody put their initials when they sign in, and when they're not there, I would put either a red mark around the square or put just next to it. I find a red mark allows them to still initial, but then you still know they were initialed late. Because you put the red box around it at half hour, right? And so you can go back later and see the consistency of somebody being late or not, yes? Never eat or smoke in costumes. Never eat or smoke in costumes. If you've got people who smoke, have them have a towel to drape around them, have them have some sort of robe to wear over the costume. They can drink water, sure. Water will not, and again, if you've got a silk costume, no. Water will melt it. Have a wardrobe, have something that goes over it, right? But have a designated smoking area for those who do, and make sure they're not doing it in their costumes. Do not, if it's not proper, it's yours, don't touch it. Set pieces aren't yours, don't touch them. It's awful hard sometimes, especially when you got some fun things around, but don't touch them. Leave them alone. If you break them, it's gone, right? My rule of thumb, somebody's got to always wear shoes, no bare feet. You never know when something has fallen off, and the worst thing you want is somebody stepping on and injuring themselves that way. Always wear some sort of shoe covering, even flip-flops, and even that is my least favorite something, but at least it's something. But have shoes at all times, again, my note. Visitors are not allowed backstage. One of the things about theater is that there's always members of the audience who always have come to see their darling. Well, people in the theater don't necessarily, they have a reputation about how they look. And when you finish the show and you have sweat through the core, you don't necessarily look your best. And you don't need other people back there seeing you in your underwear, right? And so no visitors. There needs to be some gathering place. It could be the lobby, it could be the green room in certain theaters. There should be a place that you designate where people who are visiting can wait, but it should not be backstage. There needs to be a place for the actor to come down off their performance in a dressing room and or a place that they can relax before they go out and meet their public. And it shouldn't be right in the dressing room, yes? So no visitors backstage. Always check out with stage manager, because you never know. You need to be aware of everybody that they've left. Especially in the modern world, if somebody is leaving by themselves, you need to have an assistant stage manager, or else somebody else walk them out. Buddy system, because you just never know in today's world. So no one should leave the theater alone. Everyone should always leave in groups, and you should not leave until everyone else has left. Especially if you've got minors or people whose parents are picking them up, that sort of thing. It may be a pain in the butt to have to wait, but you need to wait. And you need to have somebody wait with you, right? So that you're not the one that's left alone, yes? So buddy system. Warm-ups are to be accomplished before rehearsals. If the rehearsal starts at 7:30, the warm-up needs to happen before 7:30. You don't call rehearsal at 7:30 and then have people start to warm up. If you're gonna warm up, and again, this is one of those things where different situations, you may be encouraged by the director to call warm-ups, but that is the actor's responsibility to warm up their body and voice and all those sort of things. It's not your job to perform that. It's the actor's job to warm up. But you need to make sure they know that anything they need to do to be prepared for rehearsal needs to happen before the rehearsal time is called, because if the rehearsal time is called at 7:30 or 6 or 2, whenever it's called, that's when you need to be there to rehearse, not warm up. Always return your costumes to their hangers. Never just throw things on the floor. That's very rude. But always make sure the actors return socks, everything to the proper bins when they're done. The crew will come through and pick out things for wash on the assigned days, but occasionally they'll put a basket out that says laundry is today, throw your stuff in the laundry, great. But the costumes always need to be returned to their hangers. And again, it's one of those things where I would even go so far as to fine actors who would just leave their stuff in clumps. Yes, it's that serious, right? You need to treat their costumes with the same respect they treat their people, right? When not on stage, do not hang out backstage. When you're not on stage, you need to be in the green room or in the dressing room, not backstage watching the show. Yes, I know that's a hard one for actors to do. Actors always want to be watching to see what's going on because the audience is laughing and they're having fun and all that sort of stuff. Yes, but if you're not on stage, you're off stage. All right. If you are working at a theater that is having a lot of people coming from outside of the theater, it might be nice to provide them with information packet, places to eat, restaurants in the area, hotels in the area, movie theaters in the area, back when we get to go see movies again. Things they can do, grocery store locations, maps, whatever you can do to provide the actor with information and access to the community because they're not from around there. Now, let's say 90% of the people are from around there, don't worry about it. But the 10% that aren't, it's nice to know where things are, how to get there. If there's some sort of public transportation they can get there, you may be even that you can provide a way for them to get dinner or something, or assist a stage manager, or have lunch during the days when they're not in shows, that sort of thing from out of town, yes? Have things like birthday parties, have things like social events to make the cast feel like they're part of a group. Have a calendar that is just birthdays. Have opening night celebrations planned. Have things like cakes or cupcakes for birthday people. July 25th, have a Christmas in December. I don't know. Create great events, fun events. Go bowling one night when you have a Monday night off. Just plan something for a social activity so people can hang out and get to know each other. Especially if you've got people from not around there. Right? Now, if you're all in a college situation, you're all doing stuff, you're doing your stuff, you got homework. And again, one of the rules that we have at AUM, if you don't go to class, you're not in that rehearsal, right? So again, there are kind of rules like that. A goodie box is a great thing to have. Everybody's gonna have their own little pieces of goodie box. Here's a little video on goodie boxes, but goodie boxes, for the short version, is basically your little collection of things, mints, in case somebody is diabetic, having some candy around to get them past the episode, having a little box of orange juice or something in the goodie box, having Band-Aids, having salts, Epsom salt for people to pass out, having women's napkins available, not to get embarrassing, but whatever you can plan to have if something goes wrong or somebody hadn't planned for the day. It's nice to have a little goodie box to go here. Now, do you need an entire, if you don't have any kind of medical box already, you may need that stuff in there as well, but I would have a separate box for anything like cuts and bruises and all that sort of stuff. But little Band-Aids maybe, have that sort of stuff. And maybe you have breath mints for people, mouthwash maybe, I don't know. Just whatever it is you can think of that you might need. Clear fingernail polish in case somebody rips their hose, for instance, or splits a finger. Yes, just have things that are there to provide in case of emergency. And again, here's a little video that talks about some of the things that can be in goodie boxes.
Hello again, Internet. Welcome back to another edition of adventures in backstage shenanigans. Back when I first stage managed my first show, I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I kind of faked it. But I got a lot of advice, and a lot of good advice, and some interesting advice from a bunch of friends who were stage managers and are stage managers. They still do it. The first thing they said was I needed a box or a bag. So my friend gave me this giant list that told me a bunch of stuff that I would need. Since then, I've trimmed down a little bit, and basically with each show, something gets added, something gets taken out based on what I need for any given show. So this is my current stage manager bag. So today's vlog is going to be kind of a haul video of what is in this bag. So I hope you enjoy. We're going to start with the front, work our way back, get the sides. Alright, so this top little pocket here, pencils. Lots of little pencils. I like these golf pencils because you can get a nice box of like, there's 144 and a sheet that was like $10 for 150 pencils. You're gonna lose a lot of pencils. With pencils come erasers. When actors have to turn in their scripts, they have to erase everything. So it's good to have an eraser. Multiple. So when all the actors come in on the same day and hand in the script on the same day and didn't erase it, and you make them sit down and erase their script, they can all do it at once. Front pocket. This is my kind of office supplies pocket. More pencils. These ones are the nice kind of mechanical ones. I prefer, that one's empty. Here we go. I like these ones. Mechanical, break, a little bit bouncy on the tip, so it's kind of fun. Do, bad motion there. I don't generally lend these pencils out. They're my pencils. I like them. I lose enough of these on my own because I never put it in the same place twice. There's a dirty joke in there. Pens. Won't use a lot of these except on the first rehearsal or when you get understudies, because they all on their first rehearsal have to sign contracts and most likely don't have pens. Dropping things. So next thing, my favorite. Sharpies. Always good to have. Just in general in life, have Sharpies. Post-its. Scotch tape. This little guy is amazing. It's a little tape gun. Trigger. Got the tape. Pull it. That's a waste of tape. To go along with the pens. Whiteout. Because you never know when you're going to need to erase a pen. And you can't erase a pen unless it's a erasable pen, so you need whiteout to get rid of the pen. Highlighters. Stapler. I like this little guy because it's red. Has cars on it. I don't know if you can see that. Stapler remover. Because, well, you can staple things by accident. That's the front pocket. Moving on. Side pocket 1. When you get to tech, you're going to have your binder with your script. It's going to be dark. Very dark. Clip light. Clips on your book. Is not obnoxious so the lighting designer doesn't get pissed at you. Eyeglass repair kit. People wear glasses. They break. Sewing kit. Emergencies happen all the time. You're not always... This side pocket. Lotion. Dry hands happen all the time. Lotion. Hand sanitizer. Just good to have. Utility knife. Boop, boop, boop. Just in life have one of these. Flashlight. Used for cool effects on a camera, but also to see in the dark. Watch. I don't wear watches, but I can't always look at my phone, and part of stage managing is keeping time, so watches, good to have. The next, I call this my medicine pocket. First aid kit. This is just a little travel one that I got from Target for like $5, and then I've refilled it several times. In here, I have Band-Aids. You will use a ton of Band-Aids. Triple antibiotic ointment. Itch cream. Hey, it happens. Cleaning wipes, gauze pads, rubber gloves. Not rubber gloves, like the latex, because you know you got to be safe. If you have dancers in your show, callus cushions. They'll get used. Next, in my medicine pocket, pills. Tylenol. Excedrin is empty. I should fill that back up. Advil, aspirin, antacid, gas relief, hyperprevention. I've actually used more of that. I also have in here, back from when I was a lifeguard.
I am your father.
So that is the medicine pocket. Alright, now we get to the main pocket. This is the one that I open when I get to rehearsal, and I don't close it till I leave. This is kind of my stage manager box within a bag. Glue sticks, rubber bands, and that's gone. Paper clips. Safety pins, these are big. Someone rips something, something falls apart, a puppet arm falls off. Bobby pins for breaking into the theater when you have rehearsal and you lost your keys. No. Push pins for seam ripper. Extra band-aids. Band-aids hidden all over the place because you go through those a lot. Sewing measuring tape. Extra erasers. Lighter. Knee pads. I lost these a while ago. Could not find them for my last rehearsal process. One of the actors was blocked to slide on his knees and needed knee pads. I did not have them for that rehearsal. I now have them in my bag, and I know where they are. Hair ties. Actors and actresses who have really long hair and it gets in their face and need to tie it back during dance rehearsal, something like that. For people with thin hair and thick hair. If you're on a small theater, you're probably running the light board. A light goes out of focus, it's your job to fix it, so this is good to have in there. A-clips. This. There are two things that are going to be expensive to get that you're going to need to have. Glow tape, which I don't have because I've been lucky enough to work in theaters that have it themselves. It's really expensive. Spike tape. It's like mini gaff tape, but comes in different colors. Multiple colors are good to have, so each actor can have their own color. Each set piece, when you mark out where that goes, has its own color. And then your Bible. The binder. This will have your script in it. It'll have your contact lists, your calendar, everything. There will be a whole vlog with this binder. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed my haul of my stage manager's bag. You know.
Great. All right, and last thing for today, you got to be really good at reading ground plans, because ground plans are the overhead view of how the set is going to be. And I can promise you at some point in the rehearsal process, you'll be given a ground plan to scale. Scale is every foot in reality, maybe a quarter inch on the drawing, maybe an eighth inch in the drawing, maybe a half inch in the drawing. So you have to know what scale the drawing is in, and then you're gonna have to go out with your crew and tape the floor in the rehearsal space so that you can then hold rehearsal on an approximation of the set, the size it's going to be. Now, are things always different in reality? Sure. And of course you tape out a set of stairs. People pretend to be walking up or down stairs. Is it gonna be different walking up and down real stairs? Sure. But at least the actor gets the sense that they know approximately where things are gonna be. And if you've taped out the floor accurately and you start getting some set pieces that suddenly you find don't fit, or there's not as much room as you thought there were, you can attack the situation a week ahead, 10 days ahead, 2 days ahead of when you would have done it if you had not had the taping on the floor, if that makes any sense. And so again, learning to be able to read a ground plan and understand how it works. The ground plan that I've given you here is for a production called Plaza Suite, and I'm just gonna start stage right. There's a door that opens into the room. Yes, because the front doors of rooms, the hotels open in. You can see the swing of the door hits the fireplace, and you can see there's a masking wall behind it so that the audience sees through the door, sees the hallway. There's a couch with a table behind it that the door misses. As you can see, the swing of the door misses the table. Then upstage, you have a window that opens this way. Yes, so they can climb out on the ledge at one point. And there is a chair that gets moved there. That's why it's a dotted line, because it's only set there to climb through the window. Then there's a chair center stage with an ottoman in front of it, with a table to the left of it, and a desk with a chair at it down center. Again, there's a bedroom, and there's a little line there. The line was a line between carpet and two different kinds of carpet. The carpet that was in the living room, and the carpet that was in the bedroom. The bed follows the line of the carpet. There's two armoires or dressers, tables next to the bed. Then there's a chair over there, and there's a door that goes to the bathroom. Again, you can see the swing of the door. and you see the swing of the door between the bedroom and the living room. And there's another window unit up there with the New York drop and the rain curtain upstage. And you can see the little X's down right and down left where those are called the extreme sightline angles. So you can see little lines that show you what the audience can see, so you can tell where you need to mask things off stage. So again, there's just a little quick diagram of how to read a ground plan. There's just one little ground plan, nothing complicated about it, but just something to keep your eye on. It is ultimately your show. Whatever the choices you make, it is your show. Would it be the same choice I made? Maybe, maybe not. Again, I've talked about some things, the choices you may find horrific as you go through your stage management career. Like I said, I've made some suggestions that my lovely wife would not suggest would be accurate. But it's your situation, it's your show. You have to trust yourself and know that as long as you're being responsible to the show, you're making the best choice you can in the situation. And just when you're talking to your director and to your technical director, one of the things you want to develop is a sense that they have your back. No matter what choices you've made, if you've tried to punish somebody for being late or tried to get somebody to hang their clothes up and you've made choices, they need to support you in those choices. Now, if they feel that you've gone too far, you need to have a working situation where they feel okay with saying you've gone too far and you need to listen to them. Yes? But ultimately, the running of the show, it is up to you to deal with the consequences or the situations as they arise. I can only guess, as with anything, you can only guess what you can guess, right? There's always going to be some situation that nobody has ever experienced ever in the history of theater. Yes, COVID being an excellent example of how close actors can be, how many audience members we can do. There's a whole situation in the world right now, which is very different than it was a year and a half ago. Yes, so who knows what situation is going to arise, and you're going to have to adapt your stage managing to those situations. Yes, all right. Thank you very much. Next time we'll talk about auditions. See you then.